Smoking on something loud, head to the clouds. I ain't stepping out. Touch world is changing right in front of me. Clouds, guys, the clouds, them recession clouds. That's what's really going to be hitting you for real, for real. Them recession clouds. I mean, this Trump thing's got is going crazy, guys. It don't make no sense, guys. I mean, I voted. But let's go ahead and just take a look at this type of stuff, all right? So Trump said that China was ripping us off, all right? So he fought back with some tariffs. Now, you already know about the tariffs. You heard about the tariffs. You've been hearing about them. You've been talking about 100, 300, 400, 500. I don't know what's happening. You've been hearing about it a lot. Let me break it down for you. For those who don't know me, my name is Rickey. I am a political analyst guy. I like looking at politics. I just like it. I mean, I like looking at it, and this is my opinion on it. That's it. Did it work? That's the real question. Did the tariffs work? Let's find out. All right. So tariffs are typically taxes on imports. So usually, if something gets imported, like how we import things from China and how we export things to China, and China imports those things to them, those things have a price on them. Those things usually are called a tax. Usually, that tax is on the import. So that's called a tariff. So he wants to tariff Chinese goods and level the playing field, all right? And he wants to bring manufacturing back to America, okay? So remember that. That's what Trump's kind of plan is to do. His plan is to go ahead and try to basically level the playing field with China because China has been moving rapidly in terms of education, technology, domestic goods, stuff like that as well. They've been going crazy, moving at the speed of light faster than America because America has its own issues, which we'll talk about in a second. But before then, they're moving at light speed. So because they're moving at light speed, Trump is kind of like, let me slow them down, all right? And tariffs are a great way to slow down a country. But it kind of gets you at a stalemate, right? Both of you guys are just waiting for something to pop off. Or just say, you know what? Your gun's bigger than mine. My gun's bigger than yours. Let's go ahead and back down. This is why 75 countries came back to him after he imposed these tariffs on Liberation Day. But that's why some superpowers, are a little bit more different on the negotiating table, and that's one of them being China. Because China is also a superpower. A superpower, they didn't really even have to become a superpower based off of a war. It basically became a superpower based off of its ability to gain economic mobility through exports and imports and create great product or manufacture, I guess, great product or subpar product at a very high, quick fashion because they had the materials, they had the people, and they had the ability. So this is why, China is probably overexcelling anyway to even begin with when it comes to America. Because in the beginning, that's what they're known for. The Silk Road, anybody? Some steel companies and aluminum companies were some winners of this. And the U.S. Treasury collected billions in tariff revenue. Now, we already knew that they were going to collect something in revenue to even begin with, considering that, the countries that we're going to, obviously negotiate with a superpower because we're so fucking huge. No wonder anyone was going to, they're going to negotiate with us. That was going to obviously happen because we are a superpower and you are a lower country, compared to us in some sort of way, militarily influential wise, or any type of geopolitical thing that has to do with it. This is why you're at the negotiating table to even begin with, because you do not have that big of a hammer to kind of hit over the head. But it's okay though, because we still want to talk peace in negotiations. We just wanted to go ahead and rattle the cage a little bit, which is what Donald Trump's plan was to do to begin with. Anyway, who really lost? Now, anyway, with a tariff, anyone with the hands is going to lose. Everyone's going to lose. Okay, let me tell you why. Because the farmers, they got hit hard. The American consumers paid more in appliances, electronics, and clothing. Small businesses caught in the middle as well. Companies move production to other countries, not always back to the U.S. All right. This basically, they don't always have to go back to China. They can go somewhere else, Thailand. They can go to different places. It doesn't have to just be China. And let's go ahead and show some stats right here to go ahead and talk about these price hikes from retaliation from China. Really huge here. And this is why our stock market took huge dips because of the instability and the people who are scared because of that, because everyone knows that the S&P 500 is about, you know, influence. It's the S&P influence. It should be called the S&P influence, honestly, because anytime the influence gets disrupted just a little bit, it bounces just a little bit in the world, because for some apparent reason, obviously, since we do not have a, you know, federal reserve currency, or currency backed off of anything but political influence. And now I feel like we're just punishing China instead of outcompeting.
Had more positives than negatives, but that's not to say I was really 100% comfortable with everything he had proposed to do. No. I just feel like he's being very heavy-handed, a little bit sloppy, maybe, with how some of these things are put into place without a lot of thought and detail. I think the government definitely needed to be pared back. Like, obviously, our government spending is way out of control, but I don't think where he's focusing his time and energy is really going to move the needle any as far as deficit reduction.
We're punishing you for being better than us in these areas. Instead of going ahead and focusing on boosting R&D, semiconductors, and green tech and domestic manufacturing, supporting small businesses, reducing reliance on foreign supply chains so much. That's what I'm talking about. And obviously, by bringing back manufacturing jobs, that's what we're doing. But can we perfectly be honest here? If we're going to bring back manufacturing jobs, we're bringing back manufacturing jobs to bring back domestic goods and products being made here in the U.S. I would assume, obviously, that's why we're doing these tariffs. But the thing about it is that I don't understand why anyone would go ahead and do that, considering, you know, we're moving towards an AI automation that would relate to more of, AI taking over and doing some of the work for, other humans. We obviously know that, AI is going to displace jobs. It's one of the greatest inventions of the 21st century. Now we're displacing jobs at, just a small rate right now. You haven't seen nothing yet, because as we advance and move forward in this next 5 years with AI's help, we're going to transform the game in terms of help, in terms of understanding how more of a human we are, how much of humanity we can create, how much humanity we can spread, and just so many other different things, but, we know that's going to displace a lot of different things. So if we know that, why are we acting like bringing back the manufacturing jobs is just the only way? We know bringing back manufacturing jobs is the way, but you're not even creating an environment for people to even want to be brought back. Why are you bringing back manufacturing jobs? So they can be subjected to bad healthcare? You're bringing back manufacturing jobs so that people can come back and work into a system that gives them what? A possible no retirement 401k, the system that you haven't fixed. You're not focusing on the things that keep you. One of the greatest things about The Art of the Deal is a great book, because it shows you how to take from people when you have a lot. Trump, in his mind, I believe, thinks he has a lot because he has America following and backing him. But the thing about it is that just like his businesses that he's made that are so great too as well, and to some degree, you know, they have a components in them that make them work, that he can tangibilize and touch and things like that as well. He's coming into the history of things that have already been precedent. Precedent. So that's what one of the issues that we're facing is that, how can we keep moving forward with a person who moves like that? Who a person who, just puts those interests above Americans. I mean, now thousands of Americans, we have a Canadian here firing Americans. I mean, Jesus Christ, can I get fired by an American? It's made in China, that's made in China, made in China. Damn, I can't even get fired by an American. When are we going to invest back into America? You know, we have issues still happening right now. We have high interest rates from the Federal Reserve, which are great because, if you aggressively raise the rate, you slow down, you know, things to cool down inflation. But guess what happens? You slow down loans, credit cards, borrowing, mortgages, things like that as well. So you stall business expansion, you shrink consumer spending, you increase defaults, and especially in housing auto loans. You already got climate change issues, and people who are insurance providers don't even want to go ahead and pay their fair share. So you might have a issue and a choke growth in that, and might have a crash in that issue. You have rising consumer debt and declining in savings. People can't save enough valuable IP in counterfeit goods. 87% of counterfeit goods seized in 2017. So, they are ripping us off in some areas. But how does a tariff target that, though? You know, and push us back to grow. There's a way to get that done. But anyway, let's go ahead and get ready. Get that recession coming. Tariffs, recession. Thank you, Trump. I appreciate you.
Sure. Well, looking at it from what's happening out of China, Errol, China said that it would fight to the end, and it is making good on that threat as we see today. An all-out trade war between the world's two biggest economies will begin at 12:01 Beijing time if China follows through on those mind-boggling 84% tariffs on U.S. imports. Breaking that down, remember, that's 50% tariffs today, announced today, on top of 34% tariffs announced earlier in reaction to Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariffs. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent earlier on Fox Business Network today called China's move unfortunate. He said that China doesn't have the edge here and that it is a big loser for Beijing. But I need to point out here that there are many levers that China has to protect itself. So potentially the Treasury Secretary might at least only be verbally positioning the administration to try to push back that way. Also today, China has imposed restrictions on 18 U.S. companies, mostly in defense-related industries, and that is on top of something like 60 or so other American firms that have been punished since Trump announced those tariffs. So the bottom line here is that China is not backing down.